Hi there. Welcome to the IOP Lens, where we explore the stories behind industrial and organizational psychology. This is about real stories, real journeys, and the moments that shape who we are as a profession. My name is Dr. Sane Ngidi. I'm the president of the Society for Industrial and Organizational Psychology of South Africa. The topic today is really focused around the collaboration mandate between IOP, HR, and leadership. As we think around how we co-design the future, it's clear. Technology alone won't do what is needed. There is a mandate for us as a triad to make this effective, efficient, and humane. Today, we have in studio with us the amazing Themba Chakela. Now, let me read you a little bit about Themba. Themba Chakela is a future-forward people strategist and transformation architect. He leads large-scale change by aligning purpose, culture, tech, and performance. Blending cultural alchemy, people propulsion, and digital dexterity, he helps organizations unlock capability, shift mindsets, and drive impact. Bringing energy, you will definitely get the energy, clarity, and edge to every boardroom, team, and stage. Those words were chosen deliberately, and you will know why as we get to know Themba. So it is an absolute pleasure to welcome Themba with us today. Themba, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. I was really excited that you said yes, because your energy, I've seen you speak, you're the guy who pushes the boundaries. And so it is such a pleasure to have you here today. To get us started, we'd like to know a little bit about who Themba is, right? Because no one career journey is the same. So tell us a little bit about your career journey.
Sure. So Themba Chakela, born Sweden, raised in Lesotho, studied high school, primary school in Lesotho, but did varsity in Cape Town. I shared with you the story as to my extended stay there, and that really worked out. But it was in second year clinical psychology that somebody said you need another 9 years of this. I'm like, okay, I've got 3 years. What can I double major in? And somebody said, this is industrial psychology. I'm like, it has psychology in it. Let me jump in. But what it started for me was a journey of understanding the human condition in business. So I'm not a revenue and margin guy. I don't look at business primarily through a revenue lens. I look at it through the people experience, which makes it quite surprising that my first job was in retail, in macro, but they took a chance on me. And in 2003, they did a really big ERP implementation. They did the first retail one of its kind. And like we do with new tech, with our kids, they threw the young grads at it. So we had a bunch of graduates that did this implementation at the grassroots, and the bug stuck. Some people went into project management, other ones went tech. I was one going, well, this technology needs to have somebody pressing the buttons. That somebody pressing the buttons should probably be excited about the buttons that they're pressing and maybe even understand why they're pressing the buttons in the context of business. And that's the journey I've been on through change management, doing both organizational effectiveness and HR. And today I try to share my expertise with people that are willing to listen and have cool problems to tackle.
You've got like this lovely mix in your career where you've got the IOP lens, but you've got the tech lens as well.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more around that.
Sure. If it's not stamped on my forehead, I'm an out and out tech geek. And I blame my pops. So he was a lecturer at the National University of Lesotho, and the professors were issued computers first. I don't know if he asked for permission, but he brought his computer home. So at the age of 11, 12, my brother was 9, 10. We got access to a computer. And, just like all the famous stories of people starting stuff in their garage because of access, we started doing things on a computer at that age in Lesotho, which was quite rare. And the tech bug just hit. I think he lives vicariously through our excitement around the technology. So I've worked largely in technology businesses. And if I'm not in a technology business, I'm in a business that has technology in it. And that's where I spend a lot of my time. And that balance, I think, for me has always been about the enabling capability that tech has. So for me, tech is a hammer used by professionals to do some really, really cool stuff. Never tech for tech's sake.
Our upcoming conference in July, the theme is Human plus AI, Designing Positive Organizations.
Yeah.
And one of the core streams around that is the triad. So that this relationship between IOP, HR, and leadership or business leadership. Looking at that triad, you definitely are the right guy for us to be having this conversation with. Why do you think that triad is important in the space of technology and designing the future?
I think the triad, as it's depicted as a triad, is probably part of the problem. I'm a Venn diagram guy.
Go for it.
And if we continue to look at these things in isolation with one-way or two-way relationships, we lose some of the magic source. The magic happens in the single overlaps and the triple overlaps. But we also have to accept that there are some things that industrial psychology will do on its own without HR or tech. And look, the next time you want an HR person to do deep code, is probably the time you're gonna burn out or frustrate a pure HR person. So I think the overlaps is where the magic happens, and that 5 to 10% piece where everything overlaps is where the real value sits. And we struggle, I think, to look at these things systemically. Systematically has been mastered, but a systemic view of this thing of if I drop a pebble in the IOP pond, which ripples hit tech, which ripples hit HR? And that's where we know the balance that we're trying to find is. So the three disciplines are important, but probably less important than their relationship to each other.
Unpack that a bit more.
So being a purist, and I think if you look at the standard arc of mastery, you do deep dive and deep focus into mastering your craft, but you reach that upper echelon when you look at your craft in relation to other crafts that have been mastered. So when you have, I call them apex predators, so the Tyrannosaurus Rexes of the world, interacting from an IOP, a tech perspective and an HR perspective, that's where you get magic. If you don't have that kind of awareness and engagement, you're going to get these industrialized false silos, because none of these disciplines exist in a vacuum.
Where do we start though?
What's that movie, Everywhere All at Once? And it's about really leaning in. So you guys are looking at doing that at your conference.
Yeah.
Like it could be an IOP conference, and there's more than just an IOP conference, and there's more than enough ground to cover. But you've invited sort of discussions that sit on the fringe of your relationships with other disciplines, and you're creating the room for that. So I think that's where we have to start. We have to be curious and lean in.
Do you think that there's a full understanding within corporates of the role of IOPs?
No. But that is mirrored by the understanding that IOPs have of what CFOs, COOs, and CEOs do.
Yeah.
So those spaces remain exceedingly mysterious to each other. I speak to my HR colleagues all the time that if you want Exco to understand you, you can't speak HR needs. You need to speak CFO needs, COO needs, and CEO needs, and translate the value and the impact that your area or discipline has in their terms. The deep HR conversation or the industrial psychology conversation can happen between peers, but if we're going to have impact on business, we need to deal with it in business terms, not shirking away from the purity of our discipline. I mean, it's a hardcore science, but if you make that thing feel like magic. When you've had somebody was saying that Albert Einstein explaining his theory of relativity to grade fours is a thing of beauty because he can explain it at that level and the kids get it. Now, if you can do that with deep IOP expertise to an audience that finds that maybe less exciting than we do, let's submit that we're probably the ones that get most excited about what we do. But when you can have somebody else understand that at the very least, you're important, you have an impact, and you add value to the org, then you're on sides.
Yeah. I think just even as you say that, sometimes it can feel like describing IO psychology is very complex.
Yeah.
So in that example that you give, in its simplest form, what does it look like?
Yeah.
Is such a good example. And then also, how do we get to stop breaking these silos that you're speaking of?
So in my long lost youth, I used to gate crash meetings at the office. Like I'd walk past.
Why do I think you might still do that today?
but now they can't kick me out, right? Because I'm an exec. But we had these glass windows, and I'd walk past a meeting, and if it looked like there were cool people in that meeting and had like cool stuff on the whiteboard, I'd walk in. One of three things would happen. Either I'd be asked to leave, like, Chucky, this isn't an HR meeting, go HR somewhere else. Or they'd say, look, Themba, just come in, but sit down and keep quiet and listen. Or the third one, which often happened, was you end up a participant and contributing, and somebody at the end of the meeting goes, yes, like having a people lens in this discussion was really, really helpful. So I think we have to do a lot more of that in the nicest, most diplomatic way possible. Like push in and own space, because there's value to be had. It's just maybe misunderstood right now.
I think there's also an intersection there in terms of what you said earlier on around, like, does the organization perceive and experience and see your value? Because if they do, then it won't be there's a section in the agenda that's HR or there's an HR meeting. Every meeting will involve you, to some extent, because you're bringing that lens to the business and the decisions, etc., that are being made. So I think that's a critical one. How are you seeing AI play out? I mean, you're also on the edge of being more deeply in a tech organization, but how are you seeing AI play out?
Look, this thing changes every week, right? HRistically, you wake up every Monday and somebody's laid off thousands of people, right? And then there's a bit of doom and gloom around it. Personally, I've outsourced maybe some of the more, how do I put this? Some of the things that I'm less enthusiastic about doing, like a job spec. I used to sit down and do this thing in quite a bit of detail. It used to take me time. Now, because I've worked with Mutusi, that's the name of my AI, for ages, on doing job specs, I can literally talk in the car on my way home and say, look, in 5 minutes when I get home, please mail me your version of that job spec. And it's 80% right because we've worked together for so long. And it's leading practice stuff that I can very, very quickly pick up on if there's something out of whack, and I'm fixing those things as opposed to doing a job spec in Microsoft Word from scratch. So there's that advantage. As a sense checker, large language models are useful. And sometimes I will tell it to DHR an email for me. Like, how do I get this across in plain English so I don't lose my audience? Because I sometimes write quite lengthy emails. It criticizes me all the time. So that's the surface level stuff. But the agentic piece, I mean, imagine building AI into your disciplinary or labor relations process, using it to shortcut or get to actionable results on labor negotiations at scale. I mean, those are things that are unexplored. I think the psychology piece of both our disciplines and the OpenAI CEO has just gone on the news and said, don't use this thing as your psychologist.
Yes.
For two reasons. The conversations aren't privileged. And number two, this thing only knows what's in the public domain. psychologists aren't known for putting their files and resources in the public domain because they're privileged. So when you have a young boy talking about how he doesn't want to live any longer, and the AI edifies him as opposed to pulling him back from the edge, and then the consequences are quite final, is a problem. So I think there's that fine human balance that we need to protect and guard quite jealously, and we can't do it in the courts. We have to do it in practice.
It takes us to the ethical and governance implications of using AI effectively.
It's tough. What is it they say about guns, right? Guns don't kill people. People with guns would kill people. And history is littered with great tools that are used and abused. There's a dark side and a light side to most of these things. And I think AI will go as our moral and ethical fiber goes. And if you just drive for 30 minutes on the roads of Joburg in peak hour, you begin to see that these things are fraying at the edges. It just takes one car to pull into the emergency lane for 20 cars to pull into the emergency lane. And the same sort of applies to AI. It takes one person to use it maliciously or in the wrong way for other people who want to use it that way to take notes. So we have to hold ourselves, I think, to a higher ethical and moral standard, because the further away it gets from us, the more diluted it becomes. And maybe diluted is the wrong word, less informed. It's a big challenge because we're also not sitting in the center of the AI conversation as we should.
I want to take you back to Muthusi.
Yeah.
How did it start? Is it a he?
It's an it, right?
It's an it.
So Muthusi means helper in Sotho, right? And after working with this thing for quite some time, it figured out that I'm half Mosotho, half Swedish, and I speak English. So it'll deal with me. It'll say things like himanna, or I'll type something in, it'll go hibatung, or it'll answer in Swedish, and I'm going, no, this is for business. But it started as any relationship does, like curiosity and feeling it out, and then getting, doing courses on it. Somebody said today that AI prompting is dead. Long live AI prompting. And I think the message there is that if you haven't done AI prompting, you're probably going to struggle because you don't understand how these models think. But it's also not enough anymore to just know how to prompt. You need to be able to structure and integrate AI into your ways of working. The Copilot release a couple of weeks ago. Am I allowed to mention brands like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Where they released Cowork, and for the first time you're seeing things like you can ask Muthusi to basically clean up, do spring cleaning on your laptop, sort folders, and do things that is not just a question, right? So you're not using it like Google anymore. You're using it to do work and create efficiencies.
I think you also said something like, in working together for some time, Muthusi kind of learned your nuances. And I think that's an important piece, right? Because the technology itself isn't just about the technology. Your lens to it, your flavor to it is important for it to be useful.
And that's a very, very good point, Sonia. Because I collect vinyl. I've bought CDs all my life. I'm the guy that reads the liner notes and production credits and who wrote that song that person sang. And if you go into the guts of your AI, there's, I go straight into the settings and look at what I can play around with in there. And there's some things you can do in all these models to tailor it to your purposes and your needs. And not a lot of people take the time to go into the settings. They'll go into the chat box and immediately start typing in. And then when you speak to an executive who's written his strategy in half an hour by taking 10 years of company documents and figures and pushing them into a large language model, but the free version. And you show him that now, if I was your competitor, I could just type in, please give me 10 years worth of your company's financials. And because it's on there, it's available. Hopefully the competition won't go and look for it there. Like nobody, I think that the logic goes, nobody would ever do that, but that's the kind of stuff that we're doing. So it's important to build those protections into the tool and get involved a little bit at the back end. You know, we all drive cars. I think all of us know how to jumpstart one and change a tire at the very, very least, or where the fuse box is, the very, very least. Or like my wife says, or you can look pretty enough for somebody who knows so that they can help you, which is also a skill. But being hands-on is absolutely crucial. But we're used to being hands-on. IOP professionals are hands-on, HR professionals are hands-on. We just need to get hands-on with this tool that is unfamiliar right now. But I think in the next 3 or 4 years, we'll be going, but how did we do this without AI?
I'm with your wife on the car front.
She knows how to change a tire.
Oh my goodness. It's another episode. Those stories that you speak about were very much like the horror stories that we heard at the beginning of AI, like somebody leaked a company's salaries and that was the end of them. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, we've evolved, but we should continue to evolve. And I like what you said there around getting into the details so that you really understand the power of what you're using. There's a trust factor to this, right? So how do we build the trust around AI and people practices within organizations?
It's hard, right? So I went to a cybersecurity. In fact, I looked after a cybersecurity team as an HR professional for a while. It's a deep, dark world. Some of these guys wrote everything on paper, didn't engage online. But the one learning I took out there is your security posture. Assume that your deepest, darkest secrets are on a billboard on the M1. Like that's like if you haven't been hacked, you've probably been hacked. And somebody's just waiting for the right time to deploy that stuff. But trust is trust in the human being, not so much the technology. And once you trust your ability to use a tool, the stuff you can build is quite powerful. Like just taking those very same payroll numbers or payroll details and putting it into a trusted LLM. Within 2 seconds, this thing will pick up gender pay discrepancies. It can go, hold on, this person has been on the same salary for the last 6 years. Why is that? This person and this person look like they're the same person. Is this a ghost employee? So it's quite powerful. I'm not an Excel guy. You can probably tell by the beard. But you can now write in English into Excel to say things like you highlight a data set and then you say, I want to do color conditioned pivot tables. And you write that in English, no more complicated formulas with $ lockdowns. And it'll do that stuff for you. So now you're speaking to Excel. It's become conversational, whereas before it used to be the preserve of complicated formulas. So data is becoming more accessible.
If we think around a healthy, psychologically safe environment that partners with AI, what would that look like?
Look, I mean, we have to be clear. We can't have robotic expectations of human beings. Like, just doesn't work. So when you implement AI solutions, spend triple the time it takes to switch it on, speaking to the people who it's going to be switched on for and switched on with. Because this thing doesn't stop. It'll continue to churn out work as long as you churn out work. So there's going to be some disciplines around saying, okay, guys, it's 5 o'clock. This thing isn't going to stop, but you must go home now. And maybe here's 4 or 5 clever prompts that will keep it busy overnight so that you can be hyper effective when you arrive at 8:01 tomorrow morning. But right now it's 5 o'clock. Human beings log off, go home.
Lovely that you've stepped into that space, right? Because we already saw that during COVID, people working from home, remote work, people are working longer and longer and longer. So the tech enables, but to your point, there is more opportunity for burnout, working longer,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
I mean, the hidden consequences, right? So
Yeah.
I found that during COVID, I listened to 60% less music than I did before the pandemic. Why? Because I used to play my music in the car going to work and coming back. Now I'm in a house cooped up with people that might not appreciate the same music that I do, and music just doesn't sound the same on your AirPods. So there was that forced work-life integration piece. And closing your laptop doesn't feel as cathartic as closing your laptop, getting into your car, listening to whatever's happening on the radio and decompressing before you step in the house. Now you close your laptop and you're supposed to be out of work mode into playtime with kids mode. And it's tough. So how do you, I guess, intentionally on the one side and maybe artificially if you're firing bullets at it, but how do we become more intentional about our work-life integration? Because I think the days of work-life balance are gone.
Yeah.
That math will never math. So how do you make sure that you are giving to the side of the equation that needs the most at the right time? So when I'm in work mode, sitting at my desk in my lounge at home, how do I signal to our vice president of house operations that vacuuming next to me isn't a good idea? I signal that by putting my big headphones on, because then she can see I'm in a meeting and she'll prioritize other work. And when I'm done with my meeting, I will show the same respect and take my headphones off and maybe go take the next call from another room so that we're not working against each other. Just need to make sure that that's not the room where my wife is working from home, because then I'm interfering with her meetings. Or Setu sitting on the PlayStation is not taking up all the bandwidth in the house in the mornings, but from 4:30 on, he can. So work-life balance, maybe not. Intentional work-life integration is probably where we should be looking for gains.
There's so much in there. Like, there is so much in there, because sometimes it feels like, let me just quickly open my laptop and do something. And that doesn't matter whether it's after hours on a weekend, and it's never quickly do something. Or sometimes it can feel like it can be an escape, right? Yeah. It can be an escape of what's happening at home to work. And that in itself can be another way of coping. And then I think there's this element around boundaries, right? How do you set healthy boundaries? Also, how do you set those boundaries with your manager as well? It becomes a very difficult thing for personal boundaries and work boundaries.
Yeah. And again, what is it? Bold boundaries are probably not the future anymore. You have to have clear boundaries with some flex. So I'm clear that where my availability sits between sort of 8:30 and 5:30 in the morning. I mean, in the day, that on during the week.
Yeah,
that's work. Anything that happens outside, any work that happens outside of those hours is a negotiation with with myself in terms of priority and urgency, and also looking at what I'm supposed to be doing with other people I'm responsible to. So at 5:01, if it's NBA 2K time versus Babalo and a work call comes in, if Babalo doesn't feel like playing NBA 2K that day, I will take that call. But if we are in the middle of a game and I'm losing, I will loop back to you in the morning if it's an issue that nobody will die if we don't resolve. And over time, those become understood, I think. But it might also be, again, maybe I'm just where I am in my career and I can manage that stuff. I don't know how easy it would be for a 23-year-old at the beginning of their career to set those kind of boundaries. But if they do, kudos to them, because it will set them up for a far healthier career than I've had.
Yeah. I think that's a fair statement, because often, certainly when we work with emerging IOPs who are going into the world of work, doing their internships, some of the things that come up is they've got the technical knowledge from school, but from university, but having the having those other capabilities around networking, building relationships, making sure that you are visible, managing boundaries is needed. So I think at the organizational level, but even potentially at the master's or student level, how are we teaching those capabilities? Because those are important.
I don't have an answer, but I have my answer. I think the best thing that happened to me after getting an undergrad, a postgrad diploma, and an honors was my first job was booking in trucks in goods receiving at Macro as part of the graduate program. And for a good 2.5 years, my degrees didn't matter. But I learned a hell of a lot around the world of work, forging relationships, how things work out here where nobody gives two shakes of a rabbit's tail about how many degrees you have. They care about what are you able to do and how do you positively influence the mission. That was a great start. And in my third year of work, then the stuff that I'd learned at varsity started kicking in, and it created such a rapid separation between me and maybe somebody that hadn't done that kind of academic work before, that I think I might have risen a little quicker. Risen is the wrong word, but gotten ahead a little quicker just because I had that foundation. But in the beginning, booking in trucks, making sure that you form good relationships with the truck drivers so that when you hit the ramp and you are promoted to a scanning gun, the relationships you formed over there means that they pack the goods in such a way that you can scan it quickly, which means that you get promoted to sitting behind a computer and capturing stock. And because you have some computer knowledge, you can do that really, really quickly and you move through the ranks. But there is no substitute for the life lessons. And I think retail, and I'm hugely biased, I think retail forces you into that this is what the real world is like, and maybe helps you a little bit with that lens. So I was forced to be present. I had to interact with people I would never have interacted with on my own, and learned how to be successful with people from all walks of life in that business. And I think it's those life skills that our parents used to call paying dues. But if they'd framed it differently, we might not have minded starting in a Mr. Price home folding t-shirts. Because it's not about folding t-shirts, it's about repetition and grit and resilience, and doing 500 t-shirts, and then a customer comes and asks you a question and you still have your client facing mode on, and that just cuts across.
You've lived many lives, Themba. But yeah, really holding on to that, like building that grit, and also the diversity in the experience, and starting from the grassroots and being able to understand that helps build your knowledge on how to navigate relationships, but also how things work, so that when you're on the other side, you know how they work.
And in fairness, I think the kids, as I affectionately call anybody younger than me, figure this stuff out a lot quicker than we do. So I think the mistake maybe our parents' generation did was that it was going to take us as long to learn these lessons as they did. It's not true. These kids learn extremely quickly. I had my 13-year-old talking to his 19-year-old brother about the Epstein files yesterday. I'm like, my boy, why are you like, I said to my wife, like, why is Setu talking about the Epstein files? And Babalo, who's the older brother, goes, what are the Epstein files? He goes, it's these parties that people went to. But again, at 13, I was probably perfecting my slingshot technique and trying to figure out how to get up to mischief outside. So we have a different caliber of thought coming through, and I think they are built for the future more than we are.
Yeah, they have different access to information. They're living a different life.
Yeah.
From a leadership perspective, what does it mean to lead in organizations today and into the future, where it's not just dealing with humans? What does leadership mean when it's not just the human element that you're managing?
So it's a hard one, right? I was actually speaking to a good friend of mine this morning, and we were talking about this whole leadership thing, about how everybody wants to be a leader. Last week I saw a really cool picture of a well-groomed lion right? With fluffy mane. And it says, everybody wants to be a lion. And then the next picture was Pride of Lions, gory heads inside the guts of a wildebeest that they had just taken down. And then it said, until it's time to do some lion stuff. So it's the same with leadership. We aspire to this thing, but when you get there, it's quite hard. And if you haven't been through the unheralded hero of the management level, like planning, organizing, control, and being successful through others' efforts, in addition to yours, sets you up for leadership. When you hit true leadership, it's more around how do you think, behave, and act. That's often modeled, and the kids will humble you. I sat in on a demo once, and the kids wanted me just an adult eye over what they'd put together, and I gave them feedback. And I was the chief people officer for that organization at the time, and they're like, "Okay, thanks, Brati. I think we'll go get some executive input on this now." So I'm like, but I'm an executive. Like, no, not you, Themba. We'll want a real one, like the COO or the CEO. But the one thing that they always spoke about quite loudly was how accessible I am and willing to share, even though I'm not a developer, a technical architect, or business analyst. So how you lead, I guess, depends on who you're leading. And instead of thinking about what your leadership style is, you better be able to morph into what's needed by the people who you have the honor of leading. And that's often a challenge. We come in with our fixed leadership principles and how things must be done. Sometimes those things don't match the people we're looking to lead or the industry we're looking to lead in. So if you were, nose turned up IOP professionals, right? There would probably be a clearer impression of value and scarcity, but your job would be a lot harder because IOP is an integrated function. And without other things to IOP, IOP is, pretty much, would be an island that serves no purpose. But it's when you're amplifying and enabling business objectives using your expert knowledge, that's when the value comes out.
I think also just in that example, leadership is already nuanced to start off with, right? Because you are trying to get the best out of people, get them to be their most effective, to produce results, to achieve goals, etc. But now it's in a place where you're working with multiple generations. They're not all in front of you. There's remote works. They might be working in different geographies. And leadership isn't this thing that, I don't know, the leadership of today doesn't feel like something you can read in a textbook and kind of understand what's required.
It's hard, right? And all those different parameters you have to work with. You have to be quite fluid. So how do you stay relevant to your entire customer base? So I use my kids, and it's not illegal because I'm not paying them, so it's not child labor. But I use them to keep me in touch with the music that's hot right now. So I learned about Jersey House last week from my 13-year-old because he'd made his own ringtone. I was like, that sounds good. What is it? Oh, Dad, don't you know about Jersey House? So now I can pull up on kids his age going, oh, what are you listening to? Are you listening to some Jersey House? And automatically I'm closer to the kids area and not sitting with that reserved table for the aunties and uncles at the braai anymore. And how do you do that with leadership? So how do I, make sure that I'm trying to touch base with leaders that lead in all sorts of contexts? I love my people, but we often talk about the same thing. I'm interested in hearing what the executive position furthest removed from my function thinks about what we do and how we can possibly help them do better, because that increases the brand equity of these mysterious people with acronyms like IOP and HR, OCM, like all of those things are quite detached. But when you say, okay, we're just going to help you with your communication and stakeholder engagement, like, oh, that sounds simple enough. And like, yep, that's change management.
Yeah. It feels like, and this has kind of been like a theme throughout the conversation, that there's like this mindset shift that's required from like building in parallel or doing these things to real co-creation. And what does that look like?
Yeah. So, and a very, very good point. It would be dangerous for me to start pretending that I'm an industrial psychologist. I speak it relatively fluent. I could probably do I could do a moderately good job on an industrial psychology assignment. What I need to be comfortable with is I'm an expert at something else, and I know Dr. Sane could do this thing a whole lot better than me. And you would understand that your gift space is industrial psychology. You probably could do a really good job at tech integration and change management if you applied yourself. But if a client deserved your industrial psychology level impact, then you'd probably go, I know somebody that can do this a lot better. And I've spent maybe the last year and a half, my son says, like, Dad, I collect Pokemon, you collect skills. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, no, I've heard you talking to people, and sometimes a client will say, can you come in and do this, this, and the third? And you can do 4 things. But the 5th one, you'll say, oh, Michael Ledwaba can do that a lot better than me. Let me see if I can't put you directly in contact. But if you want it at 60%, I can do it. But if you want it at 120%, I'll get him to call you. And we could work together and collaborate. So I think there's this appreciation for the fact that we are masters of many areas, but probably experts in 1 or 2. And saying I know somebody and I can't do that as well as they do probably works out better for you in the long run. It definitely helps potential clients or the people with the problems that you're looking at. It's like a dentist could probably do really great GP work. But I want a really great GP. Like, I want to go to my GP and not have them put anything in my mouth. They must take my temperature.
For IOPs who are listening to this and thinking about co-designing, co-creating the future and what their role is, what would you say they should be focusing on?
Find the problem. The solution is in there. And again, in the last sort of 1.5 years since I've been out of a chief people role, I have yet to see a people challenge that scares me to the point where I don't want to wrestle with it properly. And I think it's because I'm relatively confident in my capabilities, and I understand my gaps well enough to go, that's a gap, but I know a guy or a girl who can help me out. So I would say, look at as many problems as you can and see if you can't tease out even a 20% part of the solution and find ways to backfill the other 80%. But early on, it's about dealing with as many problems as you can. So I spoke about that first retail implementation. This was 2003. Like, ERP was not something that was broadly understood. And in a retail business, they were like, but why are we putting in technology? We're selling lots of stock. But we learned everything from how to capture Coca-Cola into the system. And just the fact that when you do Coke, you have to create a case, you have to create a bottle, and you have to create the liquid, because the liquid will be drunk, but at the stores, we can receive bottles and crates back, but we can't receive them with liquid in. They have to be empty. And that just changed the way we started thinking about retail and stock and how you do all sorts of components. That kind of thinking has stuck with me to this day. I'll look at a problem and try and make my own personal pokeball out of it. And then when you get the pokeball, how do you then create sushi with that deconstructed thing and put it back to that and take it apart? And I think IOPs are, especially at the beginning, are able to cover a great swath of issues. So I'd say get stuck in and find problems that don't look like IOP problems. Like I keep saying, like I see revenue and market prices dropping, I'm going, I'm sure there's a people thing in there. Like this revenue isn't dropping on its own. There's a human condition that could either prop it back up or make it less volatile.
In the spirit of what could go wrong, what pitfalls should we be avoiding?
None of them. Like embrace the pitfalls fully.
Dive right in.
Dive is for suckers. Like tuck in and cannonball. But make sure that you understand the ripples and the splash patterns. So and I guess the more senior, I don't want to say old, professionals have a duty to create safe havens for experimentation for the people that are coming behind them. So, always be spectacular, spectacular in success and spectacular in failure. Lessons accrue from both. And actually hubris doesn't accrue from failure. It creates humility and humbleness if you accept your role in that failure and prevent repeats. But I would say cannonball in. We live in a space that's in ascendance. This AI conversation, this tech conversation doesn't dim the light of the people conversation. In fact, AI and the tech guys are going to face real challenges around RAM and electricity. I don't know if you saw last week, they're talking about data centers in space because we're running out of electricity on the planet. Guys, like the stuff we do doesn't require electricity, doesn't require any more RAM than what we have between our heads, and the impact is as powerful.
My key takeaway is always be spectacular. Tell us a personal career story, Themba, something for you that stands out that's a moment of collaboration, purpose, shared growth.
Yeah. So if there's few things more addictive than an enterprise-wide system go live. So the week leading up to, implementing a system you've spent, and we worked on big implementations, took a year to get there. Now you're a week, like all the doing is done. Like everybody's absolutely ready. Your tech stream, people stream, process stream, and data stream are like fully aligned. And you're just looking at getting this thing across the line. Sure, the collaboration there, like you're sitting there as a change management guy in the code, taking instructions from Uvusi who couldn't make it into the office because of traffic, and you're typing code, and Ntlantla is out there doing a stakeholder engagement session with the executives, whereas at the beginning of the project he was so shy he couldn't string 2 words together in front of an audience. And then the inevitable chaos that comes with the go live and the active support you have to do and the way those teams interact. Those memories are always precious because the culmination of very focused, disciplined work across those streams, and then it comes to a head, and then you unlock the value, and then you support a business through it, and then when you leave, the businesses are vastly different to what you found. I think that's the one. On a personal level, there was a time when I was struggling with the small stuff, and I got into the office one morning to get the stuff out of the way. And my CEO at the time was one of these old school guys, first in, last out type CEOs. I don't know if there's many built like that still. And he rocks up at the office and he goes, "Chucky, what are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Well, why don't you come in and help me understand what the best way to sort the small stuff out from the big stuff?" And he begins to draw on the whiteboard, and I'm like listening. And then he stops and he goes, "Themba, how's Judy?" I'm like, "Judy's fine." And he goes, "How are the kids?" And I go, "The kids are fine." And then he erases everything on the whiteboard and goes, "Themba, if your home front is fine, there's nothing this business can throw at you that you can't fix on your own."
I love that. That's so real, really, like what the real focus should be.
All before 7:00 in the morning, right?
Before or after coffee.
I hadn't had coffee yet. Because these things were just bothering me. And then I realized that, what he's telling me in my 20s is that sort out, like make sure your core is strong before you start trying to do push-ups and leg extensions.
Yeah. I mean, even your story that you told of the systems implementation, it took me right back in my career. It was like palpable, right? Around like what real impact looks like and feels like. And then again, to that story around the question on your wife and at home about what really matters, right?
Yeah, I did a consulting proposal to a big mining company, and final stages you present to Exco. So I'm sitting, sweating, ready for this presentation, and in walks one of these guys that I'd lived through like 3 implementations with. And all he looks at me and goes, and he's now the CIO of this mining house. And he goes, honk, honk, beep, beep. And I just cracked up, because every time this guy tried to step into my change management lane on a project, I'd go honk, honk, beep, beep, indicating pull over into your lane. This is my space. And the time between this Exco presentation and that project was 7 years.
Sure.
But he still honk, honk, beep, beep me.
That's such a beautiful example of how we can be serious people doing serious things, but can hold humor at the same time.
Look, we weren't always friends. Like, it was tough. I mean, he was a deep techie and I'm a deep people-y. So we butted heads a lot of the time. I mean, he's like, why can't you train people in 2 days? I can deliver code that quicker than that. I'm like, well, you deliver code into a stupid system. I'm training intelligent people. But we worked it out over that project. And he was the guy that let me into the back door of the system because he couldn't come in. But there was a change management person on the ground, and he could maybe do some code.
Maybe with some
spectacularly. One way or another.
Spectacularly, that's our word. Oh, Themba, we ask each guest to leave us with a parting thought, a quote, something. What's your final word for us?
So can I do 2?
You're more than welcome.
So I do a checking management Monday thing every week, and today's post was around slow motion is better than no motion. And my favorite quote of all time is from Yoda and Star Wars: do or do not. There is no try. Like, you're either doing it or you aren't. Like, trying is for suckers. Because if you're trying, you're not really doing your best.
It's so funny. I heard that quote this weekend. And so the fact that you're the second person to say it to me in the space of like 3 days.
The ancestors are saying like,
what are the chances? What are the chances?
Whatever you're putting off, can you just go do it?
Yeah. Okay. Message received, taken, understood. Thank you so much, Themba. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for your knowledge. I've heard you speak on several occasions. And so when you were coming to join us, I knew you were the right guy for the topic, and love the lens that you've really brought into understanding the business, into really not just the human capital lens, but really understanding technology. And there's something for us to take away as IOPs around how we not just guide the other side or inform the other side or support the other side, but we dive in and get dirty, and we understand it, and we take the risk and the opportunities that presents. So yeah, I leave with things to ponder about, and thank you for bringing your personal side, sharing your personal stories, and we look forward to continuing on this journey with you.
No, it's going to be a fun ride.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. If you're interested in finding out more, check out our website, www.siopsa.co.za. We look forward to seeing you at our conference in July, focused on human plus AI, designing positive organizations, and see you in our next episode. Like, subscribe, follow. I'm Dr. Sane Ngidi, an industrial psychologist and president of the Society of Industrial and Organizational Psychology of South Africa.